How ấy?
Okay, so the parameter type determine which the functions will execute. So later we see that the parameter is very important in these functions overloading. So same lah, this one we just mentioned already. So let's take a look on what is functions overloading. So this is your C++ program, the code. And you look at this divide here. You actually have a divide function here with the return type of with the integer return type. So this is one function. At the bottom here, you actually have another function with the same name, okay? And I actually have another one is under the return type float. So now you can see that I have two functions with same name, but then the function is totally different. You look at these parameters here. This parameter only accept what data type? You only accept integer value only for this function. For this divide function, it actually accept floating point value. So you can see that in functions overloading, you can overload the functions by having a different number of parameter. So either here you only have one parameter. This is what we call the parameter. So either here you have one parameter, here you have two parameters. Then it will actually become different functions. Okay, but then same name lah. Okay. And maybe you have the same number of parameter, but the parameter type should be in different order or should be different. Okay, means that the parameter type, this is the parameter type. So once this one is different, then you actually consider functions overloading. So remember that in function overloading, same name but then different parameter type or parameter. Okay, you can just explain this way lah. Okay, so if you look at this program here, so once we have this function we create already, and then this function we create, so we have a main method here. So in this main method, if I want to output this answer, divide x and y, and then another one is actually divide n and m here. So these two are actually taking the same function name called divide, and then how the system will determine, it will actually determine your value, means your parameter. So when they actually determine that your parameter is actually a integer, your x and y is actually a integer, so that you will actually trigger the integer type divide function. Okay, so if in this divide functions here, when the parameter value is actually a floating number, which means it's a floating type 5.0 or 2.0, then it will actually trigger, it will determine and it will trigger the float divide function. It will not trigger the integer because the value that you pass in is actually a float. Okay, so this is what we call the functions overloading. Okay, so this is the same. These are examples. So you have the same name, swap, okay, swap, but then inside the parameter type is actually different. So yeah, this is also another example. This one accept char only, char value. This is integer and this is actually the floating number, the float number. Okay. Okay, next one, menu. Okay, we're talking about menu, the applications of functions. So in menu, we actually have two types. One is a single level menu and one is a multiple or called multi-level menu. So menu is actually an interactive program that displays a set of options to let the user to select or to let the user to choose. Okay. So what is single level menu? Selections from only one menu. Multiple level means that you actually split the options, or you actually break the options into different level. Okay, so we said that selections of one options lead to another menu. So maybe in another menu you have others options inside. So we say lead into other menu. Okay. So you have a look on these samples here. So the rules in menu, the menu should always have this quick choice, or we say exit program choice options. So it is important to keep track of bad user input. So you can see that every time when you have a menu, you always have this exit option for the user at the bottom, at the last one. In your assignment also the same thing. The third option should always be the exit program option. And then we actually have input, because we wanted to know where is this user want to go, right? In 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 exit the program. So what is keep track the bad user input? It's actually how you handle the error. Let's say the user enter 8, the number 8, but then inside your menu you actually only have 5 options only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when the user input 8, how is your system have to respond? So you actually need to handle. You have to handle this kind of error. So you have to maybe output a message called invalid input to the user to let user know you actually entering a invalid input or wrong input. So you actually ask the user to re-enter again. Okay, within this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options here. Okay, single level menu. Given the main program as follow, write the C++ functions. Okay, this one this is a display menu function. So we're actually using the cout to display the structures and also the informations for the menu. So this one is actually addition, subtraction. These are the options. So this is the code. So we're using the while loop, do while loop, and the switch statements for handling the menu processing. Later I'm going to demonstrate multi-level menu. Single level menu, you just copy this and then just put into the compiler and try. So the switch case here, the switch statement here is actually to determine what is the user input. Let's say the user input 1, then you go to case 1, and then you actually call this addition function. Okay, so the do while is actually here do, and here actually while. So everything is actually wrapped inside this do while. Okay, so next one, we have multi-level menu. So when do you use multi-level menu? So when there's actually too many options inside your program, and actually lead to user very confused. Okay, user would get confused by too many choices, which don't know which one to choose. Then you actually have to break up. You have to break into this multi-level menu. So when the screen is too crowded, you have too many information. Okay, then you actually have to use this multi-level menu. So if you look at these samples here, the left one is actually a single level menu. Option 2 is a multi-level menu. So which one is actually more easier to see? I think option 2, right? Option 2, you actually break down to a more simple and shorter menu for the user to choose, okay, to select. If you look at this single level menu here, there's a lot of these redundant options, the redundant terms here. Let's say easy. I actually repeated the easy so many times, the medium so many times, the difficult term so many times. And the addition also the same thing. The additions are actually repeated 1, 2, 3. I think 1, 2, 3, 3 times here. So there's a lot of redundant in this single level of menu. So when we break into this multi-level menu, so first I actually ask the user which challenge or which operation you want to proceed. Let's say additions, subtractions, multiplications, divisions, or you have to exit the program. So once the user select addition examples, then it will actually break into the next level, which is actually the level of difficulty. So in the level of difficulty, we actually stated easy, medium, difficult, okay, just one time only. You don't do something like this, redundant, or we call repeated here, okay. So every time you go in addition, subtractions, multiplication or divisions, it's always just these three levels only. You don't see repeated medium addition, medium subtraction, medium multiplication, okay. Okay, so write the C++ program for the menu functions at the previous slide. Later I will demonstrate a minor one, okay, for the multi-level menu. Okay, next one, input validations. So when the user input, do you need to check whether is it a valid input? So incorrect user entry are the most common errors. So sometimes user will type wrong, right? Sometimes you select wrongly, okay, the options. Failing to account for valid response will lead to runtime error. So let's say if you did not check the if you did not check the input validations, the user input, you just let it continue run, maybe it will lead to some unexpected runtime error in your program because you did not handle properly. Okay, so when you do input validations, you actually can ask yourself, is the user input within the given range when you're actually doing the validation or you're doing the checking? So is it input within the given range? Does the user input follow the desired input format? Maybe the format is the user only can insert alphabet. So we have to check whether is it in alphabets or actually a number or a digits, right? So is the user input reasonable? Is actually one of these criteria that you actually need to check, okay, during your input validation. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay, examples are this exercise example. We take this as examples. Consider the program below. This actually is a form for the user to fill in the name, age, and email. The question asking, suggest the potential bad user data for each field. Not a good user data, a potential bad user data. So what is considered as bad user data for each of these field? Maybe we go through the first one. Name. So in the name field, what do you expect the user to input? I mean, is it a number or a alphabet? Yeah, alphabets, right? You don't put in your name like, let's say my name Jack Chang, right? I don't put in Jack 1 2 3 4 5 Chang. No, right? This is what you actually need to check lah. This is what we consider as the bad user data. Okay, let's say age. The age, you have to check the what? You have to check the format, right? Let's say maybe the user key in what? My age is actually A. What does A means? So this is actually wrong lah, right? So in the age field, you actually expected what? Expected the user to enter number. But if you do not check, what will happen? If you don't do any input validation, the program will just flow to the next process and then maybe to hit some error. Okay? How about email? Email is actually also the format. So how do you check email? Is it a valid email? I mean the most common one in your email, what do you have in your email? The symbol, right? The alliance, right? Alliance maybe student.charc.edu.my. So in email, you must have this, you have to meet this requirement. You have this alliance, then only you consider as an email. Okay, so this is what we call input validation. So if bad one means that a bad user data means you maybe missing this .com or actually missing the alliance symbol, then that's considered as the bad user data. Okay. So last one, indicate your satisfactions of product A. So this is actually expected to insert 1, 2, and 3. So if you write alphabet here, maybe it will be you cannot capture lah. capture the satisfactions, because the satisfactions is actually rate in digit number 1, 2, and 3 here. Okay, so yeah, this one is actually just now the one. If you want to validate the age, okay, some of these criteria maybe you can set by yourself. Okay, let's say it must be a number. It cannot be an alphabet. It must be a number. It must be 18 or above, or it must be below 18. So you should display an appropriate error message if one of these criteria does not meet in the user input. Okay, so write a pseudocode to represent your solution. So how do you write pseudocode? You should remember the format. What you need to do, I mean, when you begin this pseudocode, what is pseudocode? Pseudocode is actually to use to describe how your program work. Okay, how your program flow. Okay, in English terms, English word to describe. So mainly a descriptions lah. So maybe you'll try this exercise. Okay, so based on this scenario here, what do you need? Imagine you're actually writing this program. I'm writing a program to check the age. So what is the first thing you need to do? Every time.
And he.
What?
Him age.
You have to what? Yeah, okay, in pseudocode, okay, maybe you have the start terminal, right? You have the start word. Then after that, what you do? Yeah, prompt the user to enter. But before prompt the user to enter, what you need to do?
Container. Store container.
Set variable means you actually have to declare your variable first. So after you declare a variable, then you do what? You ask the user to input, right? So after you ask the user input, after user input already, what you do?
Check value or not.
You're going to check. You have to do checking, right? The input checking, input validation. So whether the user is enter correctly or not. So what if the user enter wrongly? You prompt an error. I know you prompt an error. Then what you do?
Well. See in again. Input again.
Do again. Ask the user input again. So when wrong, user input again. So you're going to continue, right? If wrong, then they keep continue. So do you need a loop here?
Yeah.
You need a loop, right? Okay. So now everything clear already lah. Okay. When wrong, then you send error message. When wrong, then you have to trigger again. So we're going to use a loop to loop this everything. Okay. So I'm going to show you how do you write your pseudocode. First, I always have a start here. So just now you said that we have to declare. So we have to declare what? How many variables?
One.
One, right? Because the scenario asks you to what? Validate the age. So the age is actually getting from the user. Okay? So you need to have a variable to capture to store this. So maybe I can just describe like this, okay, start, and then I declare the age as my integer. Age is always integer. You don't tell me you put double. Your age doesn't come with 25.5 or 19.5, 19.9. No. Okay? So the data type is always integer, I mean for number lah, okay? And then what else do you need? You need to know, you need to have an indicator to check whether the input is it true or false. So we actually have a Boolean data type.
东天有这东西哦。哎，我已经忘记掉了。 讲不好嘞。
So I have this. Okay. I have a age variables. Okay, and then I declare this is valid. This is actually a variables. Okay, but this is actually a boolean. So in a boolean data types, there's only two possible only.
Yes, true.
It's either true
False.
or false. That's it. No more. So in this, when I initialize this value, I actually set it to false lah. Okay, so I just put it this way. Easier to understand. When I start reading, okay, declare. Okay, declare is valid, boolean is false. Okay, then I go to the next one.
Well,
I will have a loop. Okay, I have a while loop. So what is this while loop doing? This while loop will keep looping when
use input.
the input is not valid, right? When the input is not valid, I have to loop lah. If valid, then I don't need to loop anymore, right? Okay, so when I check this while the valid equals to false, then I have to do what? You have to ask yourself lah. You have to do what? So if the valid is false,
Ask the user again.
ask the user, right? Prompt the user, enter the what? Enter the age, right? So what is the most easier simple term to represent prompt user? Display lah. Display. We use the word display. More easier to understand, right? After I enter, I ask the user to input. Then what I need to do? I need to read, right? My C in already here, right? This one is my C out. Then this one is my C in. But you don't use C in, okay? C is very technical words, right? So use read age. So after I read already, if I read already means I get the value already, So after I get a value, what I do?
Check value. Check.
I need to use what? To do checking.
Boolean.
If else, right? If or else if statement to do checking. Because I actually have more than one criteria to check. The first criteria I need to check is actually, is it a number? And then is it over 18? And then the next one, is it lower than 18? So I check in the opposite way lah, okay, for me. So I just type in like a sentence like that. So if the input is not a number, then what you do? What's the next action? Then I will display something like this. So I will display error, okay, age must be number. Okay, so next one, you can do this. This one is extra. Okay, I will clear this invalid input. Then next one, the next condition. This one first condition. Okay, so what is my next one? I use else if statement. Else if my age, okay, you put input also can. You can put this one. If age, this is more easier to understand. So if my age is less than 18, then what you do? I break down into more details. Okay, I just check by one condition only. So if my age is actually less than 18, then same thing lah, right? I will display error. The age must be at least 18 or 18 above. Okay. The age must be shorter a bit lah. Just put like this. Just a message. So next one. If my age is actually more than or greater than 80, then you ask yourself then, okay? Then I display. The age must be less than 80. Okay? So if I don't meet all these three conditions, means what?
The number is correct.
Let's say age is not a number. Okay, I ignore already. I did not hit this. I did not hit this condition. I did not hit this. Then my else. Else is what? What I need to put here
No. System.
means your else is actually
Correct.
means your input is valid lah, right? So if your value is valid, what you need to do?
System.
Still remember you actually have a declaration here. The is valid is actually set to false, right?
看不到。
So if this is valid, do I need to change the value of this is valid variable? I need to change to true, right? Yeah, because I did not hit these three conditions. I actually meet these three conditions already. Correct. So my is valid will be equal to true. Yeah, you can just do it in this way. So every time you finish your if, you always have this and if to close it. And then next one is your and while. Alright. So if this is valid, will I continue this loop? Do I need to repeat this loop again? If this valid, this variable is true.
用的时候需要写个
So this one I just put here is valid better,
最下
easier
面
to
那个
understand.
if ML。
So while is valid is equals to false, then only I do all these things. So if
不需要
valid is true, means I did not hit this condition anymore.
其实都
So I will actually break out from the
它就
I will break out from
才
the
有是
loop.
吗？
So after I break out from the loop, I need to display something.
有 T
I will display your age lah, okay? Something like this. And then remember you have a and terminal at the end there. Okay? So by looking at this pseudocode, is it very hard to understand the whole program? No, right? Okay, I didn't ask you to follow exactly the same as what I'm actually using here, but then this is actually a way that you use, okay, the terms that you use in your pseudocode. Maybe you can have your own way to write your pseudocode to describe the program. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, this is actually the way. When I start, because it's actually easy for me to understand. If I start, then I declare. So I declare already, then I actually have a while. While is valid, false, then I do. I do what? I do this blah 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 everything. So it's actually easy to understand for me lah. Okay. Yeah, you can also take this as a reference. Okay, how do you write your pseudocodes? Okay, sometimes question will ask you maybe to write out the pseudocode of the program. Using the pseudocode format or the pseudocode tools to write out your program.
问题啊，
Okay, done and
拉不出来。
let's continue on your chapter 8.
那
Read.
Test manager. Test manager.
Any questions on chapter 7?
印出来的时候，哈。
Input validations, functions overloading, or functions. How do you create functions? What are the elements that you need? When you create a functions, there are actually 3 steps that you need. What is that? Declare, function declarations, and
当然。
no more already. Habis. How? First, function declaration. next function call, and then function definition. So you always have this declare first, then only you create your function definition, then you use the function call in your main method. Okay, that's function call. Okay, let me go through. Oh, you want to take a break first?
Yeah.
Okay, we take a 10-minute break before we go into chapter 8 array. We will be back at 451. Now it's actually 441.
Chắc thế nào? Sorry, okay you.
第一次接触网络。
就飞了。哎，鸡巴，救我电脑快点，电脑上机。
你可以直接关机啊，你的 text manager 拿不出来。
像我这样子啊？
不是，直接按那个 button 就资讯年报。哇，第一次遇到 text manager 拿不出来的电脑，牛逼！Ctrl ALT 加 delete 它。没有牛逼。要装谁啊？
我要。
很多人呢，就这个。不客气了，谢谢。祝你一台18个。哎，祝你只要能用哦。
充气管。真喝酒喝太多，
昨天才用喝一点点，根本就不够喝。
来哦。
哎，这样子嘞，喝完了。没有啊。
阳光。
啊？
阳光
那种的好喝。那个是阿丽想出来的嘞，只是我加强的哦。
你给我讲啊。
哇，他回去哪边睡？
你来，你去不会睡的，我也不会睡的。我陪你哦，打3年了。没看华语啊？
喂，看华语啊？看我理解得了没？那你理解得到？
就我会跟头一次的是一样东西，不是死。
可是我输出4女生，然后从现在执行。我有一只猫教练没有，它8岁。
教练，你看没有跟你讲话过后，他就变得很伤心啊。你怎么这样子？
就啊。你希望你
条件判断。
你希望你。
哦。
去呼吸，
心肺复苏。